see my man in the background. I see him. I think he might be smoking a stogie. He's smoking a stogie. Right on. Michael Maloof. How you doing, my man? You doing okay today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Glad that you could join me. Better that you join that. Better now that you are with me, I should say. Michael Maloof. He's a former senior security policy analyst in the Office of Secretary of Defense, author, regular contributing analyst on RT and other media outlets. He has nearly 30 years of federal service experience in the U.S. Department of Defense. Michael, I'm going to tell you something that's going to shock you. I have come to the conclusion that you may be right about something. I've come to the conclusion that you might be right about something.
Well, thank you. I'm
humble. So listen to this. Listen to this. And this is not the only clip where Trump has said this. And after a while, you're like, what? And you know, this is going to make it very difficult for Trump to get any kind of deal if he's not given reality. So this is one of the exchanges that took place between Trump and the press. I am continuously fascinated by this idea of, I never heard that.
Thank you, calling me. Thank you, Mr. President. On Ukraine, President Zelensky just signed a law allowing for citizens age 60 and above to serve in the military. We've seen dozens of videos of young men being hauled into vans and dragged to the front lines against their will. And we've even seen videos of a young man with Down syndrome serving on the front line. You, when you campaigned, you said you wanted to see the people stop dying. A lot of people admired that statement. Now the people dying are elderly, mentally handicapped, and conscripts. So even if a ceasefire doesn't work out, why should Americans continue to fund a foreign military that's scraping the bottom of the barrel of its population like this?
Understand very importantly, this is Biden's war. This is not my war. I'm here to get us out of it. It's a mess, and I'm here to get us out. I haven't heard that when you say about 60-year-old men and, you know, et cetera. But this is Biden's war, and we're working very hard to get us out. I stopped 5 wars in the last 5 months.
I can stop at that point because he's saying absurd stuff. But he continuously says, I never heard that. I can play you 2 or 3 different clips where Trump's like, I didn't know that. I never heard that. Nobody said that. That's no excuse. Because if you keep going to these press conferences and looking incompetent by saying, I never heard that, it looks like you should fire the people who are around you, who's telling you or misinforming you. But I think
he's purposely not being told by his intelligence service.
Agreed.
They're very very pro-Ukrainian. They're only feeding him the narrative that suits their agenda, and we just got to understand that and accept that as reality, and go on from there, because this is a one-sided thing, and they basically are setting him up for failure.
But he hired these people.
That includes the neocons and the intelligence people that brief him on a daily basis. He's not getting both sides.
I accept that. But he hired these people. And how many
I can't help that. I'm just telling you what is. It's not I can't do anything about it. I can only bring it out. It's up to the American people to and pressure to be put on him from the outside. I can certainly bring it to people's attention through media, but you know, then it's up to them to do something about it, and it's up to him. And if he wants to keep these idiots around that have their own agendas, and you know, he also has to cater to his contributors.
Right.
So you know, he's not his own person as he likes to think he is.
It's not that I'm saying you have the power to do anything about it. I'm trying to point out that Donald Trump is culpable either way. If he wants to go to one press conference after the next and sits there and say, I never heard about that. And again, I can show you like 5 videos where he's like, I never heard about that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And it's like, dude, how do you like, how either you have a point of view that you want to run with, and you hire people around you that are misinforming you on purpose, and you know they're doing that. Otherwise, I don't know the other alternative on that. I don't get it.
I suspect that the neocon Radcliffe, who heads the CIA now, who helps prepare his presidential daily brief PDF, the PDB, has something to do about that. I mean, he's not getting it, and we saw it the first time I saw it was when he was on the tarmac, and he wasn't aware that drones were being lobbed into Russia.
Right.
But he was getting the information that Russia was sending missiles into Ukraine, and he flat out said, "I didn't know. I hadn't heard that." Well, what do you mean you hadn't heard that? You have the best intelligence service in the world, purportedly, and yet you didn't hear that? I mean, everything is very surfacey with him. It's all very superficial. He doesn't get into any in-depth, and he has no expertise on any one thing. He just rides everything superficially. He has to cover a myriad of issues anyway, and so he just accepts what he hears from the last person he spoke to. That's what you're dealing with. And I've seen it. We continuously see this.
Yeah. Can Trump
We
still
have to accept what is?
Can Trump still claim that it's Joe Biden's war, from your point of view?
No. It's clearly getting to be his now. He could stop the arms tomorrow. He could say that's it. He could say I'm finished with this. Russia and Ukraine will just have to duke it out. And if the Europeans want to get into it, that's their problem. I'm not getting involved. I have issues. I have problems back at home I have to deal with. Pressing problems I have to deal with. And he does. He has a myriad of pressing problems he has to deal with at home. And if he wants, but then to continue sending arms and what have you, and raising the ante, dropping out of international agreements, longstanding international agreements that we've had to try and lessen the international tensions. But that's all purposeful. He didn't have to do that. In fact, he should be extending for example, the intermediate missile treaty. He should be extended. Instead, it's by dropping out. He's now created a further problem in Russia now moving its medium ranges closer to their borders, which threatens all of Europe. And that didn't have to be if the treaty was still in existence.
Yeah, that's what I was going to next, actually. So 1987, I believe, was the date. Soviet Union, Ronald Reagan, Gorbachev made the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty. And this was limiting certain missile systems, ground-based, that were going to be used, including nuclear missiles. I mean, you can tell
it limited their distances as well.
Exactly. Well, that is over with. Donald Trump pulled out in 2019 under the tutelage of, I would say, John Bolton and the people who were around him. But Putin or Russia stayed with it for the next several years. That is now over with. At the time that Putin announced. It was just announced, right. But I don't think it's a coincidence that the Oreshnik missile mass production that Putin announced was only a few days before this was just announced.
Right.
And just to be clear, like the audience need to understand the gravity of this. Russia's
very serious.
Yeah, we're free to take any measures. We're free to do what we want. Some of the analysts were saying it could hit California. Give me your take on this, on the gravity and severity of this that the Western media doesn't seem to be latching onto.
It's mainly a threat to Western Europe and to our assets in the Far East, wherever he can put missiles. The continental United States is not threatened by these medium ranges. They would be threatened by the intercontinental ballistic missiles. But that's one treaty they want to keep in place. But the intermediates are more serious, and that didn't occur until the announcement that occurred just yesterday by Russia that they were now going to start moving these things. It did come right after Oreshnik was announced of going into production and into operation, but that was due to the fact that the United States has been moving its defensive missiles and offensive missiles into Europe and into Asia. Now, the critical thing is not just the missiles alone. It's the type of launcher. It's the Typhoon launch platform that can launch either a defensive or an offensive missile.
Right.
And that's what is being deployed into Europe and into Asia by the United States. And this is what is causing consternation in Russia. Now, the excuse used by Bolton to drop out of the intermediate treaty in the first place was, well, it's just between the United States and Russia. It doesn't, and they violated it anyway, which the Russians vehemently denied, but we've never seen the evidence that they did. It was never shown to the American people what the violation was. But now you have other countries, China, Iran, Pakistan, India, all now have their own intermediates. So the treaty needs to include those countries if it's to be effective. But if Russia and China, if Russia and the United States are not cooperating in that arena, you're not going to get those other countries to come on board under any circumstance. Yeah. So it's best if we renew relations with Russia, get that back on track, and start developing some confidence and trust again. Try to regain some trust and what have you, and confidence that the relationship can work, given that we are both very strong, serious, strategic countries, and maybe the other countries will want to become part of it and be in an exclusive club, if you will. I mean, it depends upon how you market it, and try to lessen the world tensions, because right now, this minute, they're higher than they've ever been.
Yeah, 10 seconds to midnight. Do you see that taking place? I mean, again, Donald Trump is not even being one or two things. Either he's not being honest about what's taking place in the world, or he's not being aware of what is taking place. Neither of those things allow you to engage. Like, for example, when Trump first got in office, he says, look, NATO expansion is a problem. We should have never gotten into the war with Ukraine. This was always the red line. It's like, okay, he's acknowledging reality. And if you're acknowledging reality, that at least makes me think that you are trying to meet the other person halfway. Claiming that 120,000 Russians were killed this year and Ukraine only lost 8,000. You're like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Like that, it affects your point of view if that's what you actually believe when you're going.
Well, that's the mantra. That's the mantra from the people who feed him his information.
Exactly. Yeah.
This is the problem. Yeah. And he needs to be an independent thinker, but he's not, even though he claims he is. I'll make the decision, the ultimate decision. But look who he's surrounded by. He's surrounded by everybody who speaks from the same choir book, who sings from the same choir book. You know, it's crazy.
But
they're all yes people.
Yeah, do they accept the gravity of what Putin just did? Like when they're talking,
they're not acting like it.
No, they're not.
They're not acting like it, and it is much more serious. Look, the warning time now for Europe will be less than 8 minutes if Oreshniks are used. Each Oreshnik carries 6 MIRVs, 6 missiles, independent missiles, either nuclear or conventional. So if you shoot a swarm into London of, let's say, half a dozen, that's 36 high explosive ordnance going off at the same time. You cannot defend against that. They're hypersonic. That means they go Mach 10 times the speed of sound. We have no defense. Europe has no defense. Now they're trying to develop a defense. They're trying to develop the certain platforms like THAAD and Patriot to try and deal with it, but it cannot, because it cannot deal with the maneuverability of these hypersonics. That's what makes them different from a ballistic missile, which just goes up and then it comes down, and you can project what the trajectory is going to be. Right. With Oreshnik and these other hypersonics, they can move around, and as a consequence, We have no defense against that yet.
So it's a cat and mouse, ain't it?
It's terrible. This is terrible. And the full impact of the threat and the implications of this are not being realized because of all the other distractions we have going on in the world. But this can really set off something. So if it could really set off a much larger war, especially now if the United States continues to wants to send in long-range missiles to Ukraine for Ukraine's use, and the Europeans continue to want to send in items for to continue the war. Now, Trump claims, well, I can control the NATO leaders. Well, get them to stand down.
Yeah.
Stop this war and force both sides to sit down and negotiate. Call Putin, call Putin's bluff. Say, okay, I have ordered Zelensky to halt all shooting. The Europeans are not going to be supplying anymore. Now, when do you plan to get together and negotiate and work this out? Otherwise, I'm out of it. That hasn't happened.
I don't think Putin is bluffing on that, though. I think he would.
No, he's not bluffing. He's going to stay the course. He's going to intensify over the next few months. And he's made it very clear what his objective is. He doesn't want the whole country,
right?
But he wants to be able to protect the Russian-speaking areas. But as long as Kyiv wants to continue the war, and Zelensky has received encouragement to continue the war, but you see, Trump is not getting that message. The Europeans are encouraging him to continue the fight, not to sit down and negotiate, because they want to continue feeding him missiles and other ordnance to continue the war. And why Trump doesn't get that, I don't know.
Do you think they think Putin is bluffing?
No.
Meaning the European leaders? Because during the Soviet Union, and I'll let you go after this, during the Soviet Union, there seemed to be a level of respect that is just not there now, where there was an understanding that, okay, we could end the world could end, and we don't want to do that. So let's not do that. I don't see that in the European leaders. I don't see that in the political establishment in America. I don't see it. I see it in Russia, where they're like, dude, we're doing everything in our power to not have a war with NATO, whereas you are taking provocative action over and over and over again. This was one of the last straws. I mean, it seemed that Putin was holding out the potential for some level of negotiations, which is the reason why he stuck with the treaty for all of this.
He's been restrained.
Yeah,
I think he's been restrained, and so I think that this is going to be, unless the Europeans stand down, and they don't give any indication that they will. And I don't know why they want to continue this war. They have nothing to base it on. They're broke. Their economies are a wreck, and they can't afford to rejigger their economies for wartime production. They don't have the means, and so consequently, I think they're expecting that if their backs are against the wall, the United States will somehow bail them out. Well, news alert. The United States has run out of ordnance itself. Its own stockpiles are down. It'll take years to replenish. So I don't know what's going through their minds. You have the people of these countries that are really against this war continuing, but on the other hand, you have the elites who want to continue the war. There's a break in communication between the people and their leadership in the the so-called democratic countries, which are no longer democratic, by the way.
Agreed. Thank you for this, Michael. I really appreciate it.
Michael Maloof. Thank you.
He is former Senior Security Policy Analyst in the Office of Secretary of Defense, author, and regular contributing analyst on RT and other media outlets. He has nearly 30 years of federal service experience in the U.S. Department of Defense. You have a fantastic rest of your day, man. Thank you for this once again.
You too. Thanks so much.
Michael is